brand new edition of Story Talkies. We-Storytellers turned one this month. Thank you so much for all your encouragement and support. Our guest for today is Paresh Shetty, President of Sales at Cloud4C Services and CtrlS Data Centers. It's a special moment for us because Cloud4C and CtrlS has been with us since the beginning of our journey. Talking about our guest, Paresh has been in the industry for past 25 years. He has set the bar high in transforming businesses for Vodafone Idea, HP, L&T, and more. He's a storyteller, he's a cricketer who brings in the best of both to his profession as well. He will be sharing with us today the art of selling through stories. Welcome, Paresh. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a delight to host you.
Thank you so much, Jimmy, for inviting me for this session. And firstly, congratulations for completing the first year, and I hope you have many more successful years.
I've heard you say that sales is an art and beyond. How is it an art, and how can you sell through stories?
Okay, thanks, Jimmy. I mean, you've asked me a question which is like I'm very passionate about. I've been a salesman probably for last 25 years. And even if I have grown in my hierarchy in different organizations, but the salesman in me is always there. As you rightly said, there's always a debate between sales is an art or a science. Probably it's a blend of both. It blends well when, all things fall into place, when you're interacting and when you're basically talking, the communication, the way you're able to prove or convince the other person about the product or the services that you're going to sell to him, and you're also going to tell him that how it is useful to him, and that kind of fulfills his need. It's an art, and you got to learn it, and you learn it by experience. And I always believe there's nothing better than basically doing sales through stories. When you're teaching the sales guys, also it has to be via stories, because stories is the best representation of the scenario of what the person will get into, okay, because he starts visualizing himself in that, be it a B2C sale or a B2B sales. So when you're teaching a salesman, teach him via stories, okay. Similarly, when you're doing the sales, do sales via stories. The stories has to be genuine, the story should be relevant, and a story should be able to communicate to the other person that what is the situation he is in and how he will come out of it, because somebody else has come out of it, okay, and in a beautiful way. So the story should be able to guide him well, and once the sales happen, that becomes a new story. So that's how it is. So it's all about stories, making new stories, learning from old stories. So storytelling for me is the key thing when it comes to sales. At the same time, sales is also an art that you got to kind of learn. It's an experience. You cannot be the best. You are learning every day. I remember during my starting days, I used to get sales training and all, and then I used to just wonder how do I kind of learn the whole methodology. There's a different way of your suspecting is a different stage. In every stage you do sales in a different manner, right? So I used to start learning the first call. What do you do? Second call, third call. I remember during my initial days of sales, when we were doing a lot of cold calling, I used to record my sales. I used to carry a recorder and then listen to it to see whether I've done the right thing, what could I have improved on, and also listen to the tone of the person who's going to buy. We call it as man, the person with money, authority, and need. So listen to, and there are different personas in a B2B sales in an organization. How do you interact with different personas? How do you build champions within the organization so that he kind of, starts promoting you? So those are different arts, and it's an art within an art that you got to learn, and it comes by experience. And I'm sure many people who are listening to this, or many people who have been in this field for 15 or 20 years or more would probably relate to what I'm saying. It's an art, and it's a beautiful art.
You have seen the industry evolving over the past 2 decades, and customer relationship is at the core of sales always. But currently the pandemic is putting a lot of pressure on B2C relations. How has the space evolved to manage the crisis and maintain a good customer relationship?
This is a very, very relevant question. When the pandemic struck, I mean, everybody thought it was a 15-day affair or a 30-day affair. And especially the ones who were into on-field sales, especially the B2B guys and the institution guys, they felt it is 15 days. So they were, basically on the WhatsApp and, just making sure they're in touch with with their customers, with their contact points or their KDMs, key decision makers there. But the moment after a month, they realize this is the new norm. Okay, not only they realize, the customer also started realizing, because the customer thought they could postpone the decision for 15 days or a month and they could meet the salesperson, and customer was comfortable on a face-to-face meeting. The sales guys were comfortable on a face-to-face meetings. And suddenly after a month or 45 days, everybody realized, no, the new norm is going to stay. The norm is going to be everything virtual. So customers started adapting to it. The sales guys started adapting to it. The sales guys who was not doing tele-sales or something like that, he had to start doing it. And a lot of things started happening on video. And video also, then the Zoom, the Microsoft Teams, whom we would have used once in a week, now started being using on a daily basis for a few hours, internal meetings and all. And post 60 days, I think, everybody started adapting to it. And now we've kind of everybody has adjusted to it. The customer has adjusted to it. We have adjusted to it. So, basically selling through a video, now that's an art which many of the sales guys are practicing. There are a lot of advantages to it, and we have to look at advantages when we are selling to it. So one is, if you're talking to a customer, try and video and voice. Though there is internet challenges that happen and then you can't get a video, but if you can get video and voice, then it's a little easier, because you understand the body language. You see whether you are able to influence him. Are you saying the right things? What he wants to hear? Are you able to gather to it? The other thing is, are you able to listen to him, acknowledge? Are you exploring the right things? That becomes a little possible in video. So my advice is always try do a video and audio. If not, it has to be the audio thing. The other good part is basically, you can get multiple people on the same call, which was not possible when you were doing face-to-face. So you can get a subject matter expert. You can get an executive sponsor. For example, in today's stuff, my sales guys involve me multiple times, so that if they want to bring seriousness into it or show some commitment, make sure that the customer is important to a strategic, they get executive sponsors. So you are able to get multiple folks on one screen, and if they could be in different locations, which was not possible in a physical visit or a year back. So virtual world has let many people come on the platform the way we want, and now with video sales happening, it becomes possible. Similarly, for a customer, the customer is also able to get 2-3 people from his organization on one screen. Otherwise, if you go there, you have to take different days to meet the same different people in that organization. So that's become a great advantage. The customer is adjusting, we are adjusting. Also, the way we have looked at it. For example, we used to call customers to our data centers to have a look at data centers. That was a real feel that they had to get, and they were extremely happy when they used to see our data centers. But now we started making virtual tours, which is closer to reality type. So that's another one. The other thing which we are doing is we are trying to build up virtual customer experience center. Virtual customer experience center is also helping the customers to get the feel of how their ecosystem will evolve once they get into the digital transformation journey with us. So in a way, a lot of tools, and now the new tools, everything is digital and social. So you got to start using the new tools. So Sales Navigator, Lucia, Rocket Sales, there are a lot of your Salesforce Essentials. There are multiple tools that you can use. So you can do the social listening part. You see where your KDMs are, who are the contact person, on which platform are they found, and what do they like to listen to. You basically try and see how you, in fact, work with marketing to make sure you're able to influence them in that manner. So you can now make use of a lot of digital and social tools. So I think this is the way it is changing. The new norm is more exciting. It's a new science. It's a new art. So I'm enjoying it. The sales team is enjoying it. Of course, we miss the old days of meeting customers, because that had its own pleasure. But we are adapting to it, and sales is happening.
You've been supported supporting mission critical customer needs in the cloud and data center space. What is your experience dealing with the crisis, and how is your teams ramped up to keep the light on for customers?
We being in the data center industry and the cloud migration services, so basically CtrlS is Asia's largest data center. So we've not been shut throughout the pandemic. So our guys, though we are in the background, we basically, all our guys who are managing the data centers, they are the COVID warriors for us. We didn't let data center go off even for a single day. Okay, so that's been, we've been sticking to our SLAs, no downtime for so many years, and we've been able to continue that even during the pandemic. We ensured that the bandwidth, because now the customers had to reach much more, and he's doing a lot of things on the cloud. All the meetings are on Zoom, Microsoft Teams, all that stuff. So the bandwidth had to increase. Wherever we had to increase bandwidth, or we worked with telcos to make sure we increase the bandwidth. So that is how it has happened. As I said in my previous reply as well, we also made sure, if the customer doesn't want to visit the data center, we could make it as real as possible by having Zoom calls, having virtual tours. So a lot of those things we kind of adapted to. Even for our sales guys, we made sure that they use all the different tools that we have kind of provided and able to reach to the customer and able to respond to the customer in the way he would have got the response even before pandemic. So this has been a very important year for us, and we kind of are the silent players behind. We are making sure that the organizations who are, basically reposing faith on us and keeping the data with us, they are able to access the data. They are able to, kind of play with the data, or they are able to utilize the data in the manner they wanted without any disruptions. So we had to ensure there is no disruption in any of our customers' space because of any ways to reaching to their data, which is stored in the data center that is hosted with us. Also, a lot of customers have suddenly realized they have to go to the cloud journey. So be it the public, cloud, the hyperscalers, be it the Azure, the AWS, the GCP, the Google Cloud, or Oracle or IBM, any of the cloud, we have helped customers to move into their cloud journey. We have helped them in the migration services, and if there is any infrastructure modernization that has to be done, or a platform modernization, or application modernizations, we are helping them in the journey. We are basically reducing the TAT so that they can improve their response to their customers. So they are also continuously evolving, and we are helping them in this evolution journey, or basically the digital transformation, which was supposed to be a 3-year phase for every customer. They have kind of accelerated it, they have shortened it up, and we are basically trying to pace it up and make sure that we are able to help them in this digital transformation journey. So it's been a very, very critical year for us, and we've been able to succeed wherever we have engaged with customers.
As you said, the past year has been all about digital transformation. Cloud migration and automation has been phenomenal. But there is one aspect which cannot be automated, and that is human connect. We always hear a lot about empathy. What is your take on keeping empathy at the core of business relations?
Empathy is the key. Empathy was a key even before pandemic and has become even more relevant now. You should be able to relate to what customer is going through personally, professionally, as well as an organization as well. And during the sales, post sales, even when you are doing the customer service, I think empathy becomes important. And even in ours, CtrlS and Cloud4C, we keep customer at the center of everything. All our processes are designed based on that. In fact, we have made changes in the process so that we could, basically make that impact to the customer. So customer centricity, the empathy towards the customer is the key. All the employees are given that empowerment to make sure they keep customer at the forefront and they make the decision. I think you touched upon a point which is extremely key, whether it is to me and also to the founder. He puts a lot of relevance on the Sridhar. He makes sure that customer is at the center of all our decision making. So everything that revolves around is around what customer wants. So similarly, during this phase, it became even more relevant because customer was going through the crisis period. Okay, so he wanted things to be faster. He wanted things to be in a particular manner, probably an upgrade or degrade, lot of those things were happening, in much more responsibly and probably proactively also. So that's been our story, and probably empathy is a key to succeed, during this time and also post this times. So I kind of agree with you completely.
It's amazing to hear that even bigger organizations are focusing on empathy, even in the virtual space. And that brings me to my next question. Virtual sales is a new norm. So, what's your advice to young professionals? How can they master the art of sales and how can they sell through stories?
The art remains the same, frankly. You basically have to make sure, firstly, that's why I always say if you can make a video call, that's the first tip I would give. Okay. Second is be a bit more prepared. Okay, with whom you are interacting with. You should know the KDM or the person whom you are contacting with. So probably a little bit do that. Do a lot of voice modulation, because now currently you're going to be digital, you're only going to be voice of these things. So where you got to emphasize, where you don't have to emphasize, and your stories could be the same. The only things you'll have to learn the art of saying it virtually. Which is almost similar to physical if you're doing a video and audio. If not, you'll have to play with your voice. So voice, the tonality, where you got to, make it a little loud, the pitch has to be a little on the higher side, the lower side or the medium side. So that's going to be a very key important. But also the fact that you should sound genuine, and that empathy factor, like we covered, basically should come out. All your stories should be genuine. I always say, don't make up a story to explain it. Your story should be real and it should be very, very relevant. In every incident, every sales that you close, you got to find how do I make a story out of it? Because once you make a story, that becomes a learning for your next. Okay. And story is good because the customer is able to relate to it. And that is because your story has to be also said in that manner. So to me, in this thing also, continue telling your stories, because that is what the customer can understand. Of course, the customer has a need. It should be relevant to that need or fulfilling that need, and how another customer in a similar situation had, basically did those things so that he could solve that problem and he became successful. So that he should be able to relate to. So during this time also, I would tell them to continue the storytelling technique, but change the technique in terms of how you're saying it. The communication way of communicating has to be slightly modulated, because you're on a virtual platform. And you could bring in some more folks. If you're not very confident, get some more folks involved in the sales cycle, probably a technical person if that is needed, or a senior, your manager involved, so that the customer feels important that there are so many people catering to it. At the same time, if there are some points which you're missing, those other folks can do it, and rehearse that, basically explain to the other guys also this situation. So one is during the digital age is preparation for the call, preparation in terms of what the customer wants from an organization perspective, preparation from the person whom you're going to interact with. Third is, knowing your products also equally well. That's, I always say there are 8 Ks, 8 Ks is basically know your company, know your product, okay, know your competition, know your customer. In this case, the customer is, as an organization in a B2B, it's a customer, as well as, basically the person whom you are interacting with. Know your numbers, know your process and resources that you have, know how to make a plan, and know yourself in the end. These are the 8 Ks that a salesperson should be equipped with and should be good at. Okay, and the last K being knowing yourself, being important, because you should know how are you currently in the 7 Ks. How do you need to improve on a daily basis to make your 7th K? So you make it in a scale of 1 to 10. If you're currently at 6, how do you reach a 9 in all the previous 7 Ks? So that becomes important. So I would say the tip should be follow the 8K method, which is important even on the digital or the virtual sales platform.
Thank you so much, Paresh, for that. It was a good learning, especially the 8Ks. I think it's applicable for most of us. Well, moving on to our last question. You are a storyteller. you have been in the industry for more than 2 decades. Can you tell us a story from your experience or few instances where you've crafted stories from real life scenarios to convince a customer?
We used to sell original cartridges, and in the market, we used to get a refill which was at 1/10 the cost, and you had a remanufacturer which was 30% of the cost. We had to tell stories. So I'll tell you how a story was built up when we were in sales. I'll also tell you how a story we built up in marketing. So when we went to sales, we had to communicate that the toners within the cartridges were non-carcinogenic, that doesn't cause cancer. Now we can talk about it loud and clear and all that, but that feature, if you told that non-carcinogenic, doesn't create that impact. Okay, so I'll tell you one or two small things that actually communicated the same thing. We basically, in one of the sessions at a customer workshop sessions, we actually had somebody, in fact, I only tasted the toner and I said, because it is non-carcinogenic, I can eat it. Okay, so that's what we did. We also showed hands of people who were refilling the toners. Their hands had got, impacted because they were filling toners by hand. So that means the toner had impact on it. Okay. Those were some of the things. I mean, I'm not talking too big a story, but we actually made a lot of story around it and we showed it and the customer could understand it. In a real life story, I and another person, I remember Samir Yoshi, we both went together and we were pitching it. And then we seen there was an executive assistant of the KDM who was sitting outside and she was pregnant. And we basically went and spoke to her and we said, listen, you're sitting next to the printer. Do you know whether it's an original cartridge or a non-original cartridge? She said, I don't know. The IT guys has come and put it. So he said, listen, if it is refilled, the toners get into the AC ducts. And if you're kind of breathing it, and if it is carcinogenic, there could be a harm. Okay, so we made a story around it, and that's how it is. And the EA went back and said that I should have only originals, which is, and we could produce certificates saying that the toners that was used were non-carcinogenic. None of the other guys could give a non-carcinogenic story. So there are multiple such things that we did, whether it is, any feature of any product, how it has to be explained in terms of stories. So lots and lots of any feature of a particular organization or a product or service, if it is told in a form of a story, it sells better. My final tips is clear. Learn through a story, learn your sales through a story, go and execute your sales through a story. And once you have executed it, make that your story.
It's fascinating to see how sales stories are crafted. Thank you so much, Paresh. Thanks a lot for an engaging conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Story Talkies will be back with conversations that matter. Thank you. Stay safe.